Hey everybody, it's me Amanda with Once in a Wild and welcome back to Once in a Wild Wednesday. If this is your first time visiting us here on our live stream day, which is 6:30 p.m. Central Time each and every Wednesday night, welcome of course, and this is Once in a Wild, which is our mobile zoo based right here in San Antonio, Texas, and we also provide virtual animal encounters as well. So welcome if you've never been here before, and welcome back if you have. And let me know how everything is looking and sounding, and hopefully the broadcast will come in strong today. We fixed our camera issues. As you can see, our focusing issues are no more, so that's really, really good. And let's begin, shall we? I think we shall. So has everybody had a great week? Who is chiming in already? It looks like I see Ricardo chiming in. Hello! And he's excited for the animals. And today we are going to be learning about 3 different animals, as usual. That's our usual number of animals that we bring on to the show every single Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central. This live stream is free of charge, of course, but if you do wish to donate to our little zoo, you may do so via different methods. One could be Venmo, one could be Cash App, and one could be PayPal as well. And we also have a Amazon wish list over at onceinawild.com. And the very best way to help us out is by supporting us by buying your own animal encounter. So you get something in return, of course, right? We also have a little bit of merch that you can find on onceinawild.com, as well as some of our Facebook and Instagram links as well. You can see some of our merch there too. We have stickers and things like that. So those are a few ways that you can help us out. But again, the best way to help us is by booking your own encounter, whether it be for a birthday, for the fun of it, or for a classroom and things like that. Hello, Zach. Nice to see you. Good vibes indeed. Nice to see you there. And yeah, so those are a few options for you if you wish to support us, and we greatly appreciate it. Of course, every little bit helps. We're so very glad that the weather is getting warmer and that events are coming up soon. So actually, we have some events coming up. Before I forget, we do have some public events here in San Antonio and surrounding areas, and we actually have one coming up in March. Yes, it is March, but it's at the end of March, and it's going to be in New Braunfels, Texas, right outside of San Antonio. So please refer to onceinawild.com for our events coming up. They should pop up on the homepage. And also, please follow our social media. So if you have Facebook or Instagram, those are also great ways to keep track of what we are doing with our public events. Or, of course, our virtual events as well. Sometimes we have virtual events that pop up here and there as well. And we are booking lots of birthday parties, whether they be virtual or in person here in town. And we also are booking a lot of classroom presentations. Those two type of events have been extremely popular lately. So if you have a birthday or special occasion coming up that you would like to book an animal encounter, please call me right away, because we are booking a lot of weekends and a lot of days, of course, for schools. So please let me know ASAP, and we'll get you taken care of, okay? So if you'd like a little preview of what that looks like, you're kind of getting one right now. So virtual animal encounters are done via Zoom, and basically we just provide you the link, and you come on into the Zoom meeting, just like I'm sure you all have been going into Zooms, and you might be tired of it. But believe it or not, these have been still very, very popular with classrooms, especially across the country and world. As long as you have internet access and can go into a Zoom or another platform like that, we can bring some animals to you virtually. So I hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, I think that covers everything that's going on. We're doing well. We're very busy, which is great. Things are picking up, which we're extremely grateful for, but we still, of course, can use help whenever you can. So donations are still accepted and will always be accepted. Of course, donations keep us going. So remember, during this encounter, I can actually see your comments and your questions in Facebook and YouTube, because that's where we're broadcasting today. We have a YouTube and a Facebook simultaneously at the same time broadcasting to you guys for free. And if you guys want to join in and say hello, or you can ask questions about the specific animals that we're actually showing today, or other animals that you may be curious about. Maybe something about the animal that you see today is reminding you of another animal that you really like or that you're curious about. Please ask away. I have a lot of experience with lots of animals, not just the animals that we have here at Once in a Wild. I am a former zookeeper, animal trainer, and have worked with many different animal species. And I've been doing this pretty much my whole life. I've been working with animals in some capacity professionally for a long time. So anyway, it's nice to see Our good friends chiming in from Florida as well. They're going to be asking me questions and commenting through another method. So please bear with me if I'm looking over here. I'm just taking their questions and comments. But speaking of looking over here, I'm going to start with our first animal, who is over here as well. And all of our animals do kind of hang out in their travel enclosures whenever they are in the studio here with me. And the studio is actually in the same building that the animal, or sorry, yes, in the same building, not the same room, but the same building that the animals live in. So they're only in their travel enclosures when they're traveling to a show or a program here in town, right? And then they're in their travel enclosures when they're doing virtual, but it's just temporarily. I just want to make sure you guys know that. The animals get to go home right afterwards. And our first animal is coming out right now. We have a pretty neat animal. It is a reptile. And it is Thanos, and it's Thanos the Panther Chameleon. You might be wondering why we named a blue chameleon Thanos. Well, Thanos is sometimes purple as well, and he does have a great big chin. When he gets upset, he might puff out his chin. He's actually trying to hide himself right now. Chameleons are a little bit nervous in new situations, but they tend to get used to them pretty quickly. Tend to. Sometimes he doesn't. So he's kind of leaning away. I'm going to keep spinning him until he relaxes. Just slowly like this, rotating the branch that I'm holding him on. But Thanos is a beautiful specimen of a Ambanja Panther Chameleon. He's about half grown. I don't know if you can tell how big he is. You can kind of see my hands there on the other side, and I'm behind him. So I don't want to get too close to him and make him too uncomfortable. But he's an Ambanja Panther Chameleon. He's about half grown. They do get bigger than this. And he is a boy. He is a male. Female Panther Chameleons do look quite a bit different. With this particular subspecies of Panther Chameleon, they are smaller, number one, just like all Panther Chameleon types. And they would have different coloration as well. But Ambanjas can be purple, blue, red, and a mix of all those colors as well. I'm going to make sure he's in focus for you guys so you can see him. Oh, gorgeous. That's a great shot of him. So you can see his little pose. He's trying to look really, really impressive. I think he does look impressive. So you're doing a great job there, buddy. So this animal in nature comes from Madagascar. That's the only place that you can find panther chameleons. Most chameleons live in the continent of Africa. So Madagascar is in the continent of Africa. But Madagascar is kind of its own thing because it's a great big island, which is of course cut off by ocean water. So all the animals that live in Madagascar, pretty much, except for the flying birds and other animals like that can swim maybe and get across the ocean a little bit. The animals that live on land or in the trees and don't fly, they are basically only going to be living in Madagascar. So they're what we call endemic or indigenous. You can use the word indigenous, but endemic is typically used with animals. So this animal is endemic to Madagascar, a great big giant island off the coast of Africa, East Africa is where they're from. And there are many different subspecies of Panther Chameleon like him. And I don't know how many, I forget, but another one is called the blue bar ambalomi, there's nosy bay, there's all sorts of different Panther Chameleon types. And typically they look the same except for their coloration. So their colors are going to be very different depending on the subspecies. And the reason that occurs is over time and evolution and everything, they have adapted just to be different colors and patterns. And I don't really know why, but they're all beautiful in their own way. Now he's leaning away from me. I just want to make him as comfortable as possible. So I'm going to rotate this to be vertical. He's going to show you his beautiful fat chin that I was talking about. So that chin is actually kind of his throat, and that's where he holds his tongue. So the tongue is in his mouth, but here is going to be also kind of a portion of the tongue too. And chameleons are really, really famous for having a very long tongue, but usually the tongue is just in their mouth and then it doesn't come out unless they need to eat something. So chameleons are hunters and they hunt prey like bugs. So Madagascar hissing cockroaches is a meal for a big chameleon like this. Other type of roaches and bugs of all kinds, grasshoppers, flies, all sorts of crazy things, beetles, worms, anything they can catch, even small lizards and small mammals and maybe very tiny birds. It'd be really rare, but they can definitely do that. Some of the larger chameleon species. Panthers, like I said, get about twice the size of this, so pretty big. But they have to basically sneak up on their prey. They stalk their prey by moving back and forth like a swaying leaf or a swaying tree branch. That's part of the way they blend into stuff, is by their movement. Sorry, my hand is shaking. I'm just trying to hold him up. It's not him, it's me. I'm an old woman now. So they sneak up on their prey and stalk them. And then they're going to basically have the tongue come out with the trigger mechanism. And the tongue is as long as the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail extended. So his tail is actually being used against the branch there right now. It's being used like a fifth limb. It's a prehensile tail. It's wrapped around. But if that tail is extended, that shows you how long his tongue can extend from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail extended. Isn't that amazing? You said it looks great. Thank you so much, Wendy. Wonderful. Hello, Paulina. So nice to see you on here. I haven't seen you in a while. She says, such a handsome boy. He is a handsome boy. This is Thanos. Thanos the chameleon. Again, Thanos is sometimes purple, just like his namesake. But I still think he looks like a Thanos even when blue. He's kind of cranky. He wants to be by himself. Chameleons are just like that sometimes. Some chameleons are a little more mellow behavior-wise, but all chameleons are solitary. They prefer to be on their own, just like Thanos, right? Thanos really wanted to be kind of by himself after he finished the snap, right? Too soon? I don't know. But anyway, I just thought it was a good name for him. Pretty cool. And we, of course, love Marvel around here and all sorts of movies and nerdy things. But Thanos, again, is an animal that would hunt, and he would eat bugs. So a lot of lizards eat bugs. Not all of them do, but chameleons certainly do, and they're very unique in the way they hunt. You'll notice his eyes moving around. I don't want to disturb him too much by moving, but his eyes are independently moving. So each eye moves independently of one another. That means each eye can look in two different directions at once if he wants to. And if he wants to look forward, though, his eyes can swing forward and he can look binocularly, just like we do, straightforward. So, but that helps him to stay safe from danger by looking around for danger and things. Right now, he thinks he's in danger, but he's not. It's just part of his instinct because he's a wild animal looking around for things that make him nervous, I guess. Don't worry, we won't make this too long for Thanos. We'll give him a break here in a little bit. But chameleons do have amazing vision. They have full color vision, probably more colors than we can see and on the spectrum. And they have very sharp vision. And chameleons are one of the few type of lizards. If you take a look at the side of his cheek there, you will not see any external ears. Now, chameleons do have internal ears, but they don't have any external ears. So, of course, hearing is not going to be their main sense. In fact, I don't believe they can really hear. I've never seen them react to sound before. They certainly don't use it as like a main way to sense the world around them at all. Instead, they're extremely visual, extremely visual. Most lizards have pretty decent hearing across the board, but chameleons do not. So as you can see, his tail is moving now. He's about to climb a little bit with his back legs and just reposition himself. Ooh, you can see the tail kind of curling underneath them. That's what they do when they're kind of just resting the tail instead of using it to grab onto a tree branch. But that is one of the neatest, I think, shapes in nature is that spiral tail. You can see how cool that looks. It's like a perfect spiral. Amazing. That just naturally exists, you guys. Amazing, gorgeous. But it curls perfectly underneath them, just like that. If you remember the movie Rapunzel, love that movie. However, Pascal, the chameleon, they actually got that backwards. So the chameleon's tail is curving over the back in that movie. I don't know why they did that. I guess it just looks cute like that. However, chameleons curl their tail underneath them, as you can see, and that's all chameleons that do this, that have a prehensile tail, which is all of them. They will curl their tail underneath, not over. But that is actually an animal myth. They don't curl their tail over or under, just under. That's the only way that it moves. On the back, you'll see some ridges. They do have kind of spiky ridges on their back. Not very sharp. It's more for looks than anything. Speaking of looks, these guys are really famous for having pretty colors, right? And also being able to change color. You can probably see him changing his pattern a little bit. He's getting some stripes and different patterns there that are kind of a natural pattern. Make sure you can see him okay. But that happens through use of his chromatophores, which are tiny pore-like properties in his skin, which can expand and contract to give the illusion of color change. So visually, he appears to completely change color, but it's just an expansion and a contraction of tiny little pore-like properties. So instead of having pores to like sweat, like we do, and some other mammals do, make sure he's comfortable and I'm comfortable. They don't have that. They don't have that mechanism to sweat. They're cold-blooded, so they have to regulate their own body temperature by coming out into the sun to warm up or going to the shade to cool off. Or, of course, in the kind of jungle habitat they live in Madagascar, it usually rains. So the rain will help cool them off and help them get a drink as well. Fun fact, chameleons do not drink from pools of water or any kind of still water or gathered water on the ground or even a tree leaf, really. They sometimes will, off of the leaves, drink. I've definitely seen that, especially with veiled chameleons and things. But these guys typically will drink while it's raining. And like I said, sometimes kind of off the branches or trees, but that's still kind of rare. Most of mine, when they're getting their showers, we have to shower them twice a day. Chameleons are extremely high maintenance for a reptile. And they will get their showers and they will usually drink like while the rain, if you will, or shower is coming down on them. That's where they drink. He's handsome. Yes, he is. Donna says, hi. Donna loves him. Yes, Donna loves chameleons. I know that for a fact. But see how they're changing colors? A lot of people know that chameleons change colors, of course. Very famous. But they don't know why. So most people assume that chameleons change color to just blend into things. It is not true. So chameleons don't change color to blend in. They might have a natural pattern like Thanos does with the stripes. He has very faded stripes right now, but sometimes he has darker stripes. That might help him to blend in. But chameleons like this, and most chameleons, they live in the shadows of the tree leaves. So those tree leaves are going to pretty much keep them hidden when they want to be hidden. They blend right in, just kind of naturally, just living there. They might have a pattern on them depending on the species of chameleon we're talking about, or subspecies, right? Most panther chameleon types do have more pattern than an Mbanja. Mbanjas have less pattern. He's mostly solid blue, which is kind of cool. But that's not really why they change color. Most of why they change color is going to be for communication. It's going to tell you his mood, and he's trying to communicate that, how he feels. Kind of like a living mood ring. Y'all remember mood rings? I asked the kids in a Zoom class the other day if they know what a mood ring is, and they actually did. So I don't know if that's just coming back as a trend again, but mood rings are kind of an old thing, right? But everybody knows kind of what that is. But they're like a living mood ring, and they use those chromatophores to change colors. They even have iridophores underneath the chromatophores to change more colors. Pretty neat. But they also change color, like I said, to show you their mood, to communicate with other chameleons and other animals. These guys are solitary. They don't communicate often, but if they see one another, they sure will tell each other to stay away. Or, of course, if it's breeding season and a male sees a female, it's going to be a very different story. He might change color to impress her, and that would be pretty neat, right? That's a great, what do you call it? Courtship tactic if you can change pretty colors. Pretty awesome. Another reason they change colors, not just for communication, is going to be for thermoregulation. I already mentioned that he's cold-blooded. The proper term for cold-blooded is actually ectothermic, which means he does not have his own body temperature. We as humans and other mammals and birds too, they're endothermic. So that means we have our own body temperature, and the common way to say that is warm-blooded, right? Warm-blooded, cold-blooded. So of course lizards are cold-blooded. All types of lizards are like that. And he's going to need to thermoregulate sometimes. He has to go out into the sunshine to warm up and bask and get his UV as well, and get his vitamin D and all of that, and process his food well and be healthy. But he also can regulate his temperature that way as well. Gosh, he looks so pretty right now. And another helpful tactic in a chameleon and other lizards too, like iguanas and bearded dragons, for example, and some others, they can actually darken their bodies if they're feeling too cold, and that will help to absorb more sun. Just like if you were to wear dark clothes in the sunshine, it would probably make you hotter faster. You probably experienced that before, right? And if you wear a white t-shirt, that's going to reflect the sun more. So if he's feeling too hot, he's going to be a lot lighter than he would be darker. If he's feeling too cold, he will darken and absorb more heat. And that is pretty handy. And if they're feeling fine, then they'll just kind of be in between. So somebody's grandma, Wendy's grandma, my friend Wendy's grandma wants to know how big he will get. He gets about twice this size. I know he looks huge on camera right now, but he is roughly around, I want to say, if you don't include his tail, he's probably 4.5 inches long. And he can get about twice this size. They are a pretty large chameleon species. So by the time he reaches around maybe like 4 or 5 years old, he will get about twice this size. I know he's kind of leaned up towards the camera because I want to make sure you guys can see him really well. But not a very big animal in general. Most chameleons are not very large. There's a couple species that are pretty big. One is called the Meller's chameleon. It's also known as the Meller's giant chameleon. How long do they live? That's a good question as well from Wendy's family. They don't live very long. So unfortunately, chameleons really are my favorite of all the lizards. They're super neat, but they don't live very long. They're kind of like the flowers of the reptile world, unfortunately. Some flowers, they bloom and they're beautiful for a short period of time, and they're absolutely to die for gorgeous, but they die eventually, right? All animals pass away eventually, which is unfortunately part of this kind of job, right? And all of us that love animals, we know that part of the experience, which is unfortunate. Chameleons don't live very long. Average age for a panther chameleon is anywhere from 4 to 7. Not very long at all. So that's years. Most lizards live to be at least 12, maybe 10, 12, 15, 20, 25, sometimes older than that, depending on the species of lizard we're talking about. But chameleons really don't live very long, and that's very natural. Their bodies just give out over time. Oh my goodness, indeed. Ricardo is asking a great question. Does Thanos shed his skin like snakes do? They do shed their skin. All reptiles have to shed their skin as they grow, and they go into a shed cycle. For this species, I would say, I'm trying to remember how often they shed. I should know this by now. I'm working with chameleons for a long time. But chameleons don't go into their shed cycle that often, especially when they're already adults. It's not as often as snakes. Snakes shed about once a month, more or less, when they're babies, a little bit more often. Same thing with chameleons. They'll shed a lot more often while they're growing, but that makes sense because they're growing more rapidly as babies than they are as adults. Once they're adult size, they don't have to grow as fast because it's not as dangerous to be an adult as it is to be a tiny baby, vulnerable to predators. But as they do grow, yes, they do shed their skin. I would say it's roughly about every 3 months, something like that for a larger chameleon like this. Maybe a little more often than that, but and it probably just depends on how much food they're getting, how much UV they're getting, and care as well. But they shed in patches. They're not going to shed as often as a snake, and they're not going to shed in one piece like a snake. The only lizard types that do that are geckos. Geckos tend to shed all in one piece, and it's very convenient. And then the geckos actually eat their own sheds most of the time, so you wouldn't even know it happened sometimes. Chameleons, it kind of just flakes off of their bodies. I've got another chameleon here once in a while. Her name is Janet. She's a Jackson's chameleon, and she is going through her shed cycle right now. She looks like a hot mess right now. She's almost done, thank goodness, but it kind of looks like they're half dressed sometimes. I mean, when they're going through that, we have to make sure and shower them extra. So they already get 2 showers a day for roughly 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the situation. In the wintertime, it's more because the heat in the house actually sucks up all the humidity in the house. So they tend to get like 5-minute showers, and that's at least twice a day. And when they're shedding, I sometimes will shower them more than that. You're asking his age. I can't remember his birthday. I don't think he's 2 yet. I think he's only a year or so right now. I have to look at his birthday. I think he's a year and a half, something like that. I will get back to you on that. I can't remember Thanos' birthday off the top of my head. If you don't know me very well, you're getting to know that I am not good at math or numbers. So some things I have memorized, of course, but I have so many animals, and sometimes I just can't remember their birthdays off the top of my head. I should know all of them like a good mom, but sometimes I just forget on the spot. Plus, this is live, right? But I believe, I want to say he's a year and a half. So he's not that old. He's pretty young. I know he looks huge. He's really not that big. You can see he's a little bit smaller than he looks on camera. Looks like he's reaching out for a branch, but that isn't there. So that was a good question, Ricardo. Is Thanos like Pascal, Rapunzel's pet chameleon? And is there a way I can meet both Pascal and Rapunzel? Yes. So we actually have an event coming up soon, and it's going to be very soon, actually. Please check out onceinawild.com and go to our social media. We are partnering with Once Upon a Party very soon. If you guys have seen our videos in the past with some of our Disney character friends and Marvel character friends, we are actually partnering with them for an Easter extravaganza. That's not a real word, so forgive me. But that's coming up before Easter, and I forget exactly what date. Maybe Ricardo can tell me what date it is. However, we are partnering with them sometime in April, coming up soon. Check out our Facebook, especially has the event there, and I'm sure Instagram will have it up soon too. but it's coming up. If you're in the San Antonio area, you'll have to buy your tickets for that event, but we're going to have all kinds of beautiful Disney characters and beautiful animals for you guys to interact with, especially Sandor the rabbit. Being that it's an Easter event, we have to bring Sandor, and even our ducks are coming too. But if you guys would like to book an in-person animal encounter with just Rapunzel and one of our chameleons, we actually have Janet usually hang out with Rapunzel. There's some photos of Janet and Rapunzel on our website, onceinawilde.com. You can see what I'm talking about. That would be an amazing idea. And if you guys have any ideas for other Disney characters that you really like, you can certainly book both Once Upon a Party and Once in a Wilde together, and we would love to help you with your next event. But that brought to mind that we're having a public event coming up soon. It's an outdoor event, so nice and safe. And like I said, you have to buy your tickets because I believe there's limited access as far as I was told, and that should be a lot of fun. So regardless, you have to get your tickets, I believe, ahead of time. So you should get them ahead of time to make sure that you have a spot. And if you guys would like, I can bring one of our chameleons. However, I am planning to bring more of our Easter-themed animals for that particular event. But you never know what's going to happen with Once in a Wilde, right? There could be all sorts of lizards and all sorts of things. So what we normally bring for like that type of festival type scenario is going to be our petting experience animal. So Sandor the rabbit is of course a great candidate for that. Iggy the guinea pig and his other friends will be there, as well as our ducks, Gansito and Lucas will be there. They're all grown up now, or else I would have brought them onto the show more often, but they're so very large. They're almost impossible to bring onto a virtual, but I do plan to do something with them on the live stream sometime soon because they're so beautiful. So they will be there. The tortoises, Shelton and Frank, will be there. And Eddie the Bearded Dragon will probably be there too, among others. So that should be a lot of fun. But yes, if you ever have any ideas for like your favorite Disney characters and animals together, that would be such a great idea to have for like a birthday party or even a virtual party. We can definitely partner up with them virtually as well if you happen to live in another state or city than us. Remember, we're in San Antonio, Texas. I think Thanos is ready to be put down to rest for a little bit. I'm going to let him relax because he looks a little upset. But granted, chameleons are almost always upset at the world. They don't really like company. So we'll let him just be beautiful alone for a little bit. But I think he's fantastic. Chameleons don't make the best pets for beginner keepers of reptiles. And I honestly don't recommend them for really anybody. Again, they don't live very long compared to other lizards. They definitely don't like to be touched or really petted or picked up. They're more for kind of display, if you will, and for reptile experts and enthusiasts. I don't recommend them for beginners at all or for children at all. They're more of an adult type scenario and an adult that's going to do a lot of research on their animals that they're keeping. Chameleons are extremely high maintenance as well. They require at least 2 showers a day. They require special feeding and supplements and vitamins, special lighting that can get quite expensive, and housing, of course, that can get expensive. Lots of live plants to take care of as well, because that's what they prefer to live in and on. And they are actually very, very susceptible to disease. And that's mostly because they're extremely sensitive animals, but also because they just don't live very long. And age isn't really a disease, right? Age is not a disease in of itself, but if you don't live long, that kind of tells you about the nature of this animal. They are susceptible to disease, and as they age, that gets worse and worse. So it's kind of sad, but they are beautiful animals. They are what they are. That's just how chameleons are. We have to accept them for what they are and love them anyway, right? And I love them a lot. I think chameleons are my favorite lizards in the world. And Thanos is ready to go down. So I'm going to set him down over here in his travel enclosure. And he can relax just for a little bit. He might be cranky about it, but that's okay. Oh, Thanos. He's crawled onto my hand now. He can't decide what he wants. So chameleons, again, they don't really hear, so they're extremely visual, and they're wild animals. We cannot blame them for being a wild animal. So sometimes he might be cranky about being handled and things, so we just keep it to a minimum. Kathleen says, our chameleon got his angry dark battle stripes around the dogs, but was okay with the kittens. Isn't that interesting? Or kitties. Chameleons are cool. Chameleons are some of the most unique animals on the planet. They have that prehensile tail. They have special gripping toes that are fused together, and they use them in the trees to climb. And they have those independent eyes that can look in all directions. And they have like a casing over them that protects their big ol' eyes. They see full color and have great vision. They have the long extendable tongue. I mean, how cool is that? What kind of climate do they like? So in Madagascar, where they live, it's a semi-humid type environment. It is humid, but not as humid as like the tropical rainforest down in South America. It's more of a coastal rainforest where they live in the island of Madagascar, but it's still very rainy there, and it's off the coast of Africa, so that tells you a lot. In East Africa, which is pretty warm, so warm, humid, rainy, not too hot, definitely not a desert animal. They can definitely overheat very easily. Chameleons do need a hot spot to hang out in for the most part. Jackson's chameleons do not need a hot spot. You've probably seen Janet and Samuel are Jackson's chameleons that we have here once in a while on some of the other programs. Jackson's chameleons live in Kenya, so they're a different thing, and they live high up in the mountains where the altitude is very high and where it's cooler in temperature. So panther chameleons do need a bit of a hot spot to hang out in, but it's not very hot. And they need a lot of ultraviolet to stay healthy and happy. But they're kind of in a rainforest-ish type habitat where it rains almost every day. How much does he weigh? I don't know. Maybe I'll weigh our chameleons soon to see how much they weigh. We don't weigh our reptiles too often. Every now and then, if they have a health issue or we need to monitor their weight for some other reason, maybe medication or something like that, or they go to the vet and get weighed. Thanos has never been to the vet because he's very healthy. I'll have to get back to you on that. At onceinawild.com, you can actually go to our animal pages, though, you guys, and check out the Panther Chameleon page. I did actually write down their average weight, not necessarily Thanos' specific weight, but I actually have animal pages on there with the pictures of the animals at onceinawild.com. But if you go to the animal fact sheets of those animals, there's like PDFs of those, and you can just click on them and look at the animal facts. There are weights of most of the animals on there, and I believe that I put the weight of the panther chameleon on there like an average weight. So hopefully that answers your question. But again, numbers don't stick in my head very often, so forgive me. That's partially why I didn't become a vet. So growing up, I always knew I wanted to do something with animals, at least part-time. So fun fact, my first degree was actually in fine art and photography. I very much enjoy photography, and I really wanted to do that for a living. I gave it a shot, and I didn't really enjoy doing that for my job. I ended up doing that like kind of for fun instead. And I changed my career path to zoology later, but I've always loved animals. But everybody, I think, getting to know me, they were like, oh, you're going to be a veterinarian. No, not going to be a veterinarian. Number one, I'm not really into the medical part of it. I've definitely worked as a veterinary technician and as, different jobs here and there working for veterinarians. I've worked at 3 different veterinary clinics, and I'm glad I did because I realized it wasn't for me, but at least I tried, right? And I think being a veterinarian is super admirable and wonderful, but it's not for everybody. It's a lot of math. It's a lot of hard science and lots of school. There's lots of college that you need to be a proper veterinarian, right? Especially if you want to be a zoo veterinarian because you see so many species. So no, thank you. I also want to have the animals like me. No offense to the veterinarians out there, but animals typically go to the vet when it's not a great day. So they're a little bit upset. But I tried it out for a while. But yes, math is not my strong suit. I was always good at writing and all those things too. And history and love all those other subjects. I love school. I have to definitely study. I'm not one of those people that naturally just gets all A's without studying. I'm jealous of those people. And especially math. I had to actually have a lot of tutoring for that. So let's meet our next animal. Very different than our chameleon friend. It's going to be a creepy crawly friend. It's Matilda, the scorpion. And Matilda does move around a lot more than our friend Xena, the scorpion. Xena is an African flat rock scorpion. This is an emperor scorpion. And they're a lot more active in their movement than a flat rock scorpion. So again, this is a scorpion, and it is a species found in Africa. So we're staying in the same continent of Africa, but this is going to be in the mainland of Africa, and Central Africa is typically where the emperor scorpion is found in the wilds. And they are one of the largest and heaviest type of scorpion in the world. And please don't ask me how much she weighs. I do not know. However, I'm sure that's something we can look up together, right? And I could weigh her. Guys, good thing she has all this armor. She's just jumping right off onto the table here. Don't worry, she's fine. She's a scorpion. They have armor. Kind of like our Madagascar hissing cockroaches. Sometimes they, you know, things just happen. But she won't stay still. I guess she hasn't learned a lesson. You guys. So Matilda is an emperor scorpion, and they are one of the largest scorpion species in the world. Maybe I'll just let her crawl on my arms. I should have pointed the camera more down so you guys can see her, because now she's calm, like here in my arms like a baby. Oh, baby scorpion. So not very large for an animal. I'll just concentrate on what I'm doing. Not very large for an animal, but large for a invertebrate, right? Or an arthropod, right? And scorpions are arachnids. They have two main body parts. In this species, it's hard to tell the difference between the two main body parts, but they do have them, two sections. One's a cephalothorax and one's an abdomen. The abdomen is in the rear. And then further down the rear, we have a tail. And the tail in this species and all species of scorpion is known as the metasoma, you guys. Metasoma, which means basically hind end. And that is what her tail is in this species and all species of scorpion. Yeah, that's what this is. And then scorpions also have a telson, which is where their venom is actually stored. That's a little bulbous end of the tail there. And it's kind of like a lighter color than the rest of her body, right? That's the telson. Yeah, and then she has a stinger on the end of the telson, which can deliver the venom that she needs to deliver into her prey sometimes. But, however, this scorpion has really large claws, so they don't really need their venom that often because their claws are so big. So it's more like a crab hunts. These guys will kind of grab on and pinch on their prey and crush their prey like that. And that will usually do the job just fine. Their venom is also very mild with this species. Therefore, they're not dangerous to humans. So if I do get stung, don't worry, I'll be fine. They're really not that bad at all. But their pinching claws is what usually can defend them if they need some defense from maybe a small predator like a bird or a lizard that's trying to eat them in Africa. And also, they use that to hunt their food like bugs. So this is a bug-eating animal. They're insectivores. They eat similar animals to them. They might even eat other scorpions sometimes. However, this type of scorpion isn't as, what's the word? Cannibalistic as other scorpions are. In fact, emperor scorpions sometimes will be seen living together in colonies underground or underneath something like a fallen log or inside of a termite mound or something like that underneath it, or wherever in the forested region of Africa where they're from. So they're more of a humid type weather animal than a flat rock scorpion is to you. You guys that know Xena, our flat rock scorpion, that's more of a desert type animal. Those guys do not really prefer moisture. This type of animal is in a more humid environment. So kind of like the chameleon, honestly, where there's a lot more rain and things. Let's see what questions you guys have. I'm going to glance down while I'm paying attention to my chameleon. Are scorpions venomous? Yes, all scorpions are venomous. They have venom inside their bulbous telson there. And then the stinger is on the end of the telson, of course, and that's what delivers the venom. But not all scorpions are created equal. Scorpions have different variations or levels of venom, if you will. Some are very, very toxic. I don't recommend picking up scorpions if you're not an expert or don't know what you're doing. Please don't pick them up in the wild if you live in the US, especially, because those guys really can pack a punch. They may not kill you. You'll probably be fine, but it does hurt. It's kind of like a wasp sting or something like that. This species, it wouldn't really hurt that bad. I've been stung by emperors before. They rarely sting, only when they're super startled or upset, or maybe defending their young, because they are good moms. They'll do that to you. But they're all venomous in some capacity, if that helps to answer your question. So, but that doesn't mean that all venom is created equal, right? She's a wacky girl, isn't she? She kind of like runs around. What questions do you guys have down here? I'm trying to decipher your question. Sorry, guys. I'm reading and handling a scorpion at the same time. You guys are in New Orleans right now, so my Florida friends are hanging out in New Orleans with Grandma right now, and Grandma says he looks like a crawfish. Well, he is a she, number one. Matilda is a girl. She's a girl scorpion. There are ways to tell by looking at the undercarriage as well. She's not a crawfish, but they are kind of similar to some sea creatures like that. They are what we call arthropods, and they are invertebrates. They don't have bones, right? Instead, they have a hard outer shell. which we call an exoskeleton. And as they grow, similarly to reptiles shedding their skin, like snakes and other reptiles, of course, lizards, chameleons, these guys will shed as well as they grow. Now, scorpions this large don't shed very often because they don't grow very much once they've reached a large size like this. But baby scorpions will shed at least, I would say, every 4 to 6 months as they grow. And then as they become more adult size, now I got the hang of it, guys. As they become more adult size, they don't have to grow as much because they're safe, safer anyway. And they'll molt about, guys, I promise she's fine. She's just taking a little dive every 2 seconds. So embarrassing. You're embarrassing me. Hold on. I don't care if you pinch me to hold on. Oh, so cute. But yes, they have a hard exoskeleton, thank goodness, to help her survive a little fall into the keyboard, but she's fine, obviously. It's just awkward. But they do have to molt their entire exoskeleton, just like a crawfish would, or a lobster, or anyone that's an invertebrate has to do as they grow. So the entire thing will actually come all the way off like a hollow shell. And then they will become a new scorpion. She'll be a new woman every time she sheds her exoskeleton or molts her exoskeleton. But they're what we call arthropods or invertebrates. And again, they don't have bones. Invertebrate literally means no backbone, but they have 0 bones whatsoever. Now you guys see why I really love Xena, because she doesn't move. It's not so hard in person. So if you'd like to meet her in person, she's a lot easier to present. But on the camera, I have to hold her up like kind of high. Like I feel like I'm holding her up so high. Similar to a cicada. Yeah, so cicadas are they're of course an insect, but they're another invertebrate that has to molt their exoskeleton. And when a cicada does that, they usually leave them on trees and things, right? So when a scorpion does that, they'll kind of just leave them in their burrow or on the ground. So you might be able to find scorpion exoskeletons too. It kind of looks like a brand new scorpion right next to them, but it's really just a hollow shell that they've gotten rid of. Now, scorpions do have 8 walking legs. She sure is walking around a lot today. 8 walking legs, pretty cool. And they do, of course, have those big claws, which are called pedipalps. That's the proper name for their claws, pedipalps. And they're basically arm-like appendages, but they're kind of connected to their mouth. So it's more like a mouth section or mouth, just like sections of the mouth that help them to, of course, eat and grab things, but they also grab things to hold on and all sorts of things. So I mentioned that they do have, well, they are good mothers. She did have a mother at one point, I guess, but they are good moms. So scorpions are kind of like opossums. Now, why would that be? Scorpions carry their babies on their back. So scorpions give live birth. They don't lay eggs. They give live births, and they can have many babies at once. This species can typically have anywhere from, I would say, a dozen to up to about 50 babies sometimes, depending on the mom and the fertility, I guess. Our other scorpion, Xena, had 49 babies, so she had a lot of babies. She was really, really chunky when we got her. I should have known that she was gravid or pregnant, but I didn't even think of that. And then we had surprise babies. That was pretty cool. But what they do is they are born live, and then they will crawl on mom's back and hang out on mom's back until their shell hardens. Because when they're born, they actually are soft. They're soft and they're usually white or very light colored. And then eventually they'll harden to have this dark outer shell, which protects their bodies, of course. But until they do that, it takes about 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, depending. And until they do that, mom will actually carry them around on their backs like mom opossum does sometimes. And she will feed and water and protect her babies from danger as best she can. Isn't that awesome? So super cool. I'm glad you guys like her. You may not like scorpions as much as other animals, right? But that's okay. We just want you guys to respect animals. If you don't like them, guys. Sorry. Scorpions being sassy today. You guys may not like scorpions as much as we do, but we do want to encourage you guys to respect animals, because guess what? Scorpions, even though they are venomous and some are toxic to humans, there's not very many that can kill you. So it's the best thing to leave them alone, and they'll leave you alone. And the scorpions are very important because they eat a lot of pesky insects that can make us sick, like roaches and flies and other things like that. And if you don't like scorpions and spiders, an animal that eats scorpions and spiders is scorpions and spiders. So by killing them, you're actually doing a disservice to yourself if you don't care for those animals, because somebody has to keep those animals in check as well. Speaking of which, these type of scorpions do have predators in the wild. And scorpions in general do. A lot of lizards eat scorpions and birds, of course. Not every scorpion is super toxic, so they can be eaten just fine by other animals. All sorts of animals eat them in Africa as well. Their main predator in Central Africa is going to be the savanna monitor and other monitor lizards, believe it or not. They eat these guys all the time. Down in South Africa, where the African flat rock scorpion lives, is going to be the meerkat is their main predator down there in South America, but they're more southern than central. So the meerkat wouldn't be really around this species to my knowledge. But there are many other animals like badgers and all sorts of animals that eat arthropods slash, invertebrates like these guys for their dinner. They have to watch out. Now you might be thinking, how do they defend themselves? Well, most of the time they're going to be hiding underground. These guys are terrestrial, even though she's climbing my hands right now and trying to jump down. She's not a jumping animal. These guys are more terrestrial on the ground and subterrestrial underground. And they prefer to stay hidden. Look at her walk. This is making me work. I'm getting good exercise on my wrists today, holding them up like that. The triplets say they aren't afraid. Good for them. Well, emperor scorpions are nothing to be afraid of. I know they're big and scary looking. A lot of movies have emperor scorpions because they're easy to kind of handle and stuff for the handlers in the movie business, but they're completely harmless to humans. If she stung me, it'd be like a scratch. Like it doesn't even hurt. I've had maybe like a couple times where I've been stung by an emperor scorpion, not her, but another one. And it wasn't bad at all. It's a lot less than an ant bite, in my opinion, or ant sting, I guess. Ants don't really bite, do they? Unless they're the kind that live in like South America and things. But ants do have a stinger, right? And they sting. And some ants bite. And wasps sting. I'm right? Ants do sting, right? As far as I know, I've been stung by ants plenty of times. Well, Matilda, you're making me work today. She just wants to run and get her exercise, I think. I know each time that she, takes a little jump down, it sounds loud, but it's just because she's falling onto the computer where the audio is. So don't you worry, everything's fine. I know you guys are super worried about our beautiful scorpion. But Matilda is going to go down and rest now, and I'm going to rest my arms and hands and my brain and set her down. I hope you guys enjoyed her. Can you see all the hair all over her body? You may not be able to see it as easily as like a tarantula, but they do have hair kind of all over them. And that helps them to feel vibrations. Vibrations are going to be the way that they sense the world around them. So their sense of touch is their best sense. Pretty cool. I know next time I'll be bringing Xena instead of Matilda. Don't worry, I love them both, but my goodness, that was a lot harder than it should have been. Whew, my hands are tired. Okay, you guys, so let's go ahead and bring out our final animal. I hope you guys are enjoying the show, and you can make fun of me all you want for the bloopers. Okay, you guys. Are they found in Texas? There are many scorpion species found in Texas. And forgive me, I don't know all of them, but I would definitely leave those alone. The species that you just saw, the tumbling one that you just saw from Africa, not a species you would see here native. So they only live in Africa. So the largest species of scorpion live in Africa. The African flat rock and the emperor are the two largest species of scorpion in the world. Did you know that in prehistoric times, like during dinosaur times and even before, scorpions were about 4 foot long or more and usually lived underground? Not underground. Sometimes they live underground, but also underwater is what I meant to say. So scorpions used to be an aquatic animal. And then when they started coming up on dry land, eventually, right, then they became a terrestrial and subterrestrial type animal. Some scorpions can climb a little bit, but most scorpions are usually on the ground or underground. But like I said, back in the old days and prehistoric times, way before I was around or any of us were, scorpions were aquatic primarily, kind of like a lobster. And they started, kind of in and out of the water and as a species and were around 4 foot long. That's a huge scorpion. I'm not sure that I would enjoy holding that type of scorpion, although I do like animals like that. So who knows? Who knows how I would feel? So let's go ahead and meet one of my favorite animals. I say that all the time, but she really is. And I brought you another cold-blooded animal. All cold-blooded animals today. And it's going to be Harlequin, the corn snake. So this is our beautiful corn snake, Harlequin. And she is roughly, I want to say, 4 or 5 years old. And this is a species you would see natively in the United States. They live in the eastern United States and in Florida, also Louisiana and Georgia, places like that. So they really like a warm climate, and or at least a mild climate, right, with no snow. But this is a beautiful species of colubrid. They are in the rat snake family. The other name for the corn snake is the red rat snake. You can probably see why they call them the red rat snake. They are primarily red and orange, right? So very, very beautiful. And her belly looks like this. So she actually looks like a corn pattern on her belly. That is where they get the name the corn snake. In my opinion, it looks like a checkerboard, but I wasn't around when they were discovered and didn't get to name this species. So instead they called them the corn snake, which reminded somebody of corn, which I can see as well. Now, the reason they have that pattern is for defense. So this is a non-venomous snake, to answer your question, Dora. Non-venomous, she is extremely harmless to most animals, including humans. So her bite would not envenomate anyone or me. The scorpion is venomous. The lizard was not, the chameleon, and the snake is not. So she's non-venomous. So she's what we call a colubrid, which is a group of non-venomous type snakes. And more specifically, rat snakes is the family that this snake belongs to. So, and of course, this is the corn snake or red rat snake. They, instead of using venom, they're typically going to be constricting their prey. I know they're not a very heavy-bodied snake, but they can still squeeze their prey a little bit and at least hang on to it until it stops moving, and then they can eat them whole. They also actively hunt in trees and things like that. You can see how she can climb a little bit. Most rat snakes can do that. They're good climbers, as well as hanging out on the ground too. They're semi-arboreal, which means up in the trees sometimes and down on the ground sometimes. So arboreal and terrestrial, so semi-arboreal, sometimes trees. So they can hunt birds in the trees if they want to. They can look for eggs, but this type of snake can also hunt lizards and frogs and rodents too. They get the name the rat snake for their habit of eating rodents. Not necessarily rats, because rats are a little bit too big for this species, but they might be able to eat young rats, and they might be able to eat, of course, mice and things like that. But a non-venomous species, and for that reason, they're quite vulnerable to danger. So this type of predator has predators too. In fact, all three of our animals are both predator and prey. Most animals in nature do have some sort of predator, and this animal would be vulnerable to quite a lot of predators. So they need a way to stay safe from their enemies that can warn their enemies, and that is actually their pattern. So most of the time, this animal will not show its belly. It'll be climbing in the tree, and you'll see maybe this pattern, or laying on the ground, or crawling on the ground, slithering and seeing this pattern. But if they see an enemy, maybe it's like, I don't know, a outdoor cat that they don't like, or a fox, or something like that, they might lift their body up like this, and they make a little S pattern. I can't make her do it now, but she would naturally make an S pattern and lift up her body like this to show that belly, and that's going to look very strange to another animal. So in nature, this type of pattern doesn't really exist very often. Whoa, she's jumping down too, you guys. So she is going to look very strange to most animals if they see that, especially if she goes from being one color to another color all of a sudden. It looks like witchcraft. Witchcraft. Maybe I should have named you Wanda. That would have been neat. The Red Witch, right? You guys are keeping track of your WandaVision episodes. But that would have been a neat name for a red rat snake. But she does appear to change color like that quite quickly. And most patterns like that in nature mean a warning. So if you see a black white stark pattern like that, that's typically a warning. Slytherin, the California king snake, is black and white all over his body. That means warning too. If you look at a lionfish under the sea, they have great big fins that look like a lion's mane, right? They're kind of like this. Their fins are actually black and white too, with a kind of a banded pattern on them. Another animal, of course, that's black and white. You guys probably know what it is. It smells really bad. Let's see if you guys can guess. What's a black and white animal that's a mammal that smells bad? It's black and white too. And of course, that black and white color is a warning. So usually black and white, other than like maybe a zebra, means warning. But zebras actually use their black and white stripes for different reasons. Did you know that zebras use their black and white stripes to avoid bugs? So the latest studies have shown that zebras have those stripes to avoid fly bites. Fly bites are no joke in Africa, where the zebra is from. They can actually become very, very ill from fly bites. So if you have stripes on you, if you wear a striped pattern out when you're camping or when you're hanging out, out in nature of some sort, wearing stripes, you will get less bug bites. Did you know that? That makes me want to wear stripes wherever I go in the summertime. Holy cow, so gorgeous. Holy snake, so gorgeous. No cows here once in a while. Maybe someday. There's 6 of you watching, and we are all afraid of Matilda. Well, Matilda is gone now, so you're welcome. Matilda is totally harmless. She's actually quite clumsy, as you saw. Nothing to be afraid of. She's super silly. How big is she when she is born? Talking about the snake or the scorpion? I'll just tell you both. So the snake is pretty small when they're born. Their eggs are around yay large. They're like kind of this shape. They're kind of a longer shape. They're not very big when they're laid. These guys do lay eggs. Not every snake does that, but they do lay eggs. And they're quite small. They're only about this, maybe this long, but super slender when they're born or hatched. Scorpions are teeny tiny when they're born out of their mom. Super duper small, like the size of maybe your pinky nail. So very tiny when they are born too. But the snake, yes, now you have clarified your question. Yes, they're very small. They're like a little worm when they're hatched. You should look it up. They're super cute. Baby corn snakes are one of the cutest animals in my opinion. I think she's cute even as an adult too. She's gorgeous. Thank you so much for the compliment. Are they found in Texas? Oh, I think you were talking about the scorpion. But this species is not found in Texas, just to make sure I clarify. This one is found more eastern United States, so southeast actually. So like Florida, Miami people, are you listening? Florida, Louisiana, and Georgia, places like that, and even down further south too, sometimes in Mexico and things like that. I do believe it. And but rat snakes in general are found all over the place. You will definitely see rat snakes in Texas. We have specifically the Texas rat snake and black rat snakes and all sorts of rat snakes. We have Baird's rat snakes in Texas, all sorts of rat snakes that look similar to her, totally harmless to people. And that brings up a good point. If you see a snake or a scorpion or a spider or anything like that in your own environment that you might be nervous about, please don't pick them up or handle them. We want to leave that to the professionals, right? So snakes are extremely important to the natural environment because just like the scorpion, they help us out with pests, but it's going to be different types of pests. Snakes eat a lot of rodents for us. So without an animal that takes care of the rodent population, humans and other animals like our pets can get sick. Rodents, unfortunately, when not kept in check, rodents are great too for their own purposes. Of course, we love all animals. But when rodents are not kept in check by predators, they can take over. They can eat our food and resources. And also, unfortunately, they carry a lot of disease. And that's also important for the other rodents. Did you know that? So prey animals in general typically will be eaten by the predators if they are the sickly ones or the slower ones or animals that are older, unfortunately, sometimes. But it's mostly going to be the ones that are sicker. So if the ones that are sicker are becoming consumed by predators, then the animals that are healthy can then thrive. And that helps them too. So having prey animals only is actually a terrible thing because some of those prey animals can make each other sick too. Hope that makes sense. So you have to have predators and prey in the natural environment, and snakes are excellent predators. Almost every single snake out there in nature is harmless to people, and so many of them become persecuted because people think that they're something they aren't. Most snakes are non-venomous. However, there are venomous snakes too, right? We want to make sure and leave them alone, and they'll leave you alone, and you won't get bitten either because that's very important too. We don't want to be handling snakes that are dangerous to us. So we just recommend not handling any snakes unless you are a professional. If you have a snake problem, the best thing you can do is call a professional, like a reptile removal service or an animal removal service or something like that, and they're hopefully going to humanely remove that animal and release it to somewhere appropriate because it's extremely important for all snakes, including venomous species, to be in the environment to help us out, even if you don't like them. So anytime you call an animal removal service, I always recommend asking them if they're going to remove a snake humanely or remove an animal you're trying to save humanely. We want to make sure they're not going to harm the animal as well. That's very important, because not all animal removal services are created equal. So some of them are great. Some of them you just want to make sure, right? Snakes are my favorite animals as well. If you can't tell, I just love them. They're very easy to work with. They're extremely easy to clean up after. They only eat about once a week or a little more sometimes, or a little less sometimes, depending on the species and size. So some snakes in the wild can go many months without eating. This type of snake usually has to eat a lot more often than that. In the wild, they'll probably eat about once a week too. So we do offer her food at least once a week. They have a higher metabolism than some snakes like boas and pythons. And they're a little more slender bodied as well. Absolutely beautiful, don't you think? This beautiful pattern can function as camouflage, especially in the leaf litter and things like that, or just up against a tree. But then, of course, that beautiful belly will help to warn her enemies that she may be dangerous. But remember, she's not dangerous, but it's pretend. But a lot of animals don't know the difference. By instinct, they will see that weird pattern and think, that's a little weird. I think I'm going to go find some more food over here just in case. So that has been our program for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you would like to support Once in a Wild, please contact us for your own Zoom animal encounter. That would be a lot of fun. You can actually customize and pick the animals that are going to join in. Typically, we try to show 6 to 8 animals per Zoom hour, and we would love to see you in one of those for an event. Or for your classroom. Those are great for classrooms. We can even make them applicable to your curriculums that you're studying, whatever you're studying, biomes or habitats or anything at all. We can try to apply it to that. We have all sorts of different animal options. We've got over 70 animal ambassadors, including cold-blooded animals and warm-blooded animals. So something for everybody. We even have some aquatic critters too, which is really fun. And if you'd like to check out some of the other videos here on our channel on YouTube and Facebook, all of those videos should be archived for you to watch again and again and again. And if you like what you see, you can share the video, like the video. It's a free way you can help us out. But if you'd like to donate, as always, we have donation options down below, as well as, of course, booking your own animal encounters, whether they be virtual or in person. Look at this silly girl. All my animals are so silly today. And like I said, there's donation options down in the description, and they include Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, as well as our Amazon wish list, which is linked down below, as well as on onceinawild.com. And please stay tuned to our social media and website for some of those public events going on, and we'll see if we can arrange some more virtual public events as well. We've been very busy though, so we're trying our best. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We love you out there, all of our friends, family, and followers. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us here at Once in a Wild. Do me a favor and like the video, whether you be on Facebook or YouTube. That helps us out a lot. Share it with animal-loving friends and family. And we'll see you guys next time here at Once in a Wild, guys. Bye. We are nothing close to ordinary, but we love to be your friend. Hold our hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing Once in a Wild. Together. Once in a Wild. I want to hear you say Once in a Wild. Never fun for me and you. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Central Time here on YouTube and Facebook. See you later. Bye.